I stood motionless at my home office window on a bitterly cold January morning, my breath fogging the glass as I watched Rachel expertly load her heavy designer luggage into her sleek Tesla. My wife of 8 years moved with the practiced, chilling efficiency of someone who had rehearsed this routine countless times before. Another elite pharmaceutical conference she had casually mentioned over dinner, Seattle this time around. 3 days of endless presentations, networking dinners, the usual corporate grind. She promised she would be back by Monday evening. "Martin, I'm heading out," she called from the bottom of the stairs, her voice echoing in the foyer. I made my way down at a painfully slow pace, my knuckles white as I gripped the wooden banister for dear life. The chronic, suffocating fatigue had progressively worsened over the past 18 months. Some days, just the simple act of walking down the stairs felt akin to summiting a treacherous mountain. My primary care physician, Dr. David Chang, who conveniently happened to be Rachel's trusted colleague from the hospital, had run an exhausting battery of tests. Everything always came back frustratingly inconclusive. Probably just severe stress. He had casually dismissed it during my last visit. "Your architectural firm has been pulling a lot out of you lately. Maybe it's time to seriously consider scaling back your hours." Rachel stood waiting by the heavy oak front door, her dark auburn hair perfectly blown out and styled, her expression painted into a very careful, calculated mixture of wifely concern and hidden impatience. "Are you absolutely sure you'll be all right on your own? I can easily ask Alina to come over and check on you and Chloe." "We'll be perfectly fine," I assured her, forcing a weak smile. "Chloe has been locked in her bedroom for 3 solid years. Nothing drastic is going to suddenly change in a mere 3 days. Something dark and unreadable flickered across Rachel's flawless face. Was it a flash of disappointment? Annoyance? It vanished so rapidly that I convinced myself I had simply imagined it through my brain fog. "The housekeeper, Maria, will be here first thing tomorrow morning," Rachel continued, adjusting her designer coat. "I've left plenty of cash on the counter for groceries or delivery. And Martin, please, don't forget to take your daily supplements. The blue capsules especially, they are crucial for helping with your declining energy levels." I nodded obediently. Those specific blue pills were a relatively new addition to my routine, prescribed directly by Dr. Chang just 2 months ago. Honestly, they didn't seem to help my energy at all, but Rachel was utterly relentless, insisting I take them religiously every single morning. She stepped forward and kissed my cheek. Her signature perfume smelled sharp, metallic, and overwhelmingly expensive. "Take good care of our girl. Try your hardest to get her to eat something substantial besides those dry crackers, would you?" And just like that, she was gone. The Tesla's electric motor hummed a quiet, almost sinister tune as she backed smoothly out of our sprawling driveway. Our massive house in the wealthy Portland suburbs suddenly felt incredibly cavernous and suffocatingly empty. I shuffled my way toward the kitchen, my joints and muscles aching in protest with every step. The coffee pot was already bubbling and brewing. Rachel had thoughtfully set the timer before leaving. I poured myself a steaming cup, stirring in the specific organic cream she always purchased specifically for me. I took a sip. The first taste hit my tongue with a harsh, bitter note, but then again, everything had tasted completely off to me lately. I was just settling into my plush office chair, mentally preparing myself for yet another grueling day of remote architectural work that I would probably barely make a dent in, when I heard a sound that made my heart completely stop beating in my chest. It was a knock on my office door, from the inside of the house. My trembling hands froze entirely on my computer keyboard. Chloe hadn't stepped a single foot out of her bedroom in 3 agonizing years, not since she turned 14 and received a devastating diagnosis of severe social anxiety paired with crippling agoraphobia. She took all of her meals quietly on a tray left just outside her bedroom door. Our entire relationship had been reduced to communicating through brief, sporadic text messages, though she very rarely bothered to respond to mine. Rachel had completely taken over handling the vast majority of all interaction with our daughter, dutifully bringing her customized therapy assignments from Dr. Elena Rostova, who was, unsurprisingly, another one of Rachel's close medical colleagues. The knock echoed again, much firmer and more demanding this time. "Dad, can I come in?" My throat completely closed up. It was Chloe's voice. I hadn't heard the actual, physical sound of it in person in well over a year. We had survived on incredibly rare, muted video calls only. Of course, sweetheart," I barely managed to choke out. The heavy door creaked open, and there stood my only daughter. But this was absolutely not the frail, pale, withdrawn ghost of a girl I had briefly glimpsed through pixelated video screens. Chloe stood incredibly straight and tall, dressed practically in dark jeans and a black hoodie, her long, striking blonde hair, so much like her late birth mother's, pulled back tightly into a no-nonsense ponytail. She looked astonishingly healthy, vibrant, and highly alert. Her deep blue eyes were piercingly sharp and intently focused. I noticed she was firmly clutching a heavy external hard drive in one hand and a thick, overflowing manila folder in the other. "Chloe, how are you out, Dad?" "We only have 48 hours. Her voice rang out steady, profoundly calm, and absolutely nothing like the trembling, broken whisper I had sadly grown so accustomed to hearing muffled through her locked bedroom door. "I need you to sit quietly, listen to absolutely everything I am about to tell you, and above all else, I need you to trust me completely. Can you promise to do that?" I could only stare at my daughter, my heavily fogged mind violently struggling to process the impossible reality I was currently witnessing. You're standing right here. You walked out of your room." "I have been perfectly able to walk around and leave my room for 3 entire years, Dad." She swiftly closed the office door behind her and marched directly to my desk. "I never actually had agoraphobia. I've been pretending this whole time." The entire room seemed to tilt violently on its axis. "What? No, that makes no sense. Dr. Rostova officially diagnosed you. We have spent tens of thousands of dollars on your specialized therapy. Dr. Elena Rostova is actively sleeping with Dr. David Chang, and Dr. David Chang is actively sleeping with Rachel." Chloe slammed the heavy hard drive and the thick folder down onto the center of my desk with a resounding thud. "And all 3 of them are currently working together to murder you." The horrific words hung suspended in the stale office air like toxic smoke. I opened my mouth to speak, closed it, and then helplessly opened it again. "Chloe, that is complete insanity. Why on earth would you ever even think?" "Because I have hard proof. 3 solid years worth of undeniable proof." She boldly pulled up a leather guest chair, sitting directly across from me as casually as if we were about to engage in a normal, everyday father-daughter chat about high school homework or weekend curfews. "Dad, do you vividly remember 3 years ago, when Grandma Beatrice tragically passed away? My beloved mother. It had been a sharp, shockingly sudden heart attack at the age of 68. I had been utterly devastated, emotionally shattered for months. Of course, I remember it like it was yesterday. Did you happen to know that exactly 2 weeks before she died, Grandma came over here to visit while you were stuck at the office? She and Rachel got into a massive, screaming argument. I heard every single word of it from the top of the stairs." Chloe's vocal tone remained eerily steady, but I noticed her pale hands clenched tightly into fists. Grandma furiously accused Rachel of having a sordid affair. She flat out told her she had seen Rachel getting intimately cozy with another man at an upscale restaurant down in Lake Oswego. Rachel coldly told Grandma to mind her own pathetic business, or she would deeply regret it. A sudden, freezing wave of ice rushed through my veins. Your grandmother never mentioned a word of that to me. Because exactly 2 weeks later she was dead. Chloe reached swiftly for the overstuffed folder, flipping it open to reveal a starkly printed, official-looking document. This right here is Grandma's actual autopsy report. The polished, Official version claimed it was an acute myocardial infarction. But this paper right here is the preliminary toxicology report, the specific one that mysteriously got lost in the system before the final, edited version was officially filed. I took the crumpled paper from her with violently shaking hands. Dense, confusing medical jargon filled the entire page, but one specific, horrifying line was brightly highlighted in neon yellow ink. Elevated, lethal levels of thallium detected in blood tissue samples. Immediate further analysis strongly recommended. "What exactly is thallium?" I whispered. "It's a highly toxic, heavy metal poison, Dad. It intentionally causes sudden heart attacks, complete organ failure, and perfectly mimics a completely natural death." Chloe's unwavering voice finally cracked, just a fraction. I was only 14 years old at the time. I didn't fully comprehend what terrible things I had overheard until Grandma was suddenly put in the ground. Then I started really wondering. So I started actively looking. She smoothly flipped open her sleek silver laptop. When had she even managed to get a laptop? She was strictly supposed to have highly monitored, limited internet access as part of her therapy protocols. The glowing screen suddenly illuminated an incredibly complex, meticulously color-coded spreadsheet filled with dates, exact times, and GPS locations. 3 years ago, I started closely following Rachel's every move. Not physically out in the world at first. I slowly taught myself how to access her smartphone remotely. I secretly installed a hidden keylogger program on her personal laptop. I painstakingly taught myself advanced digital forensics by reading massive stacks of library books. Maria would secretly check them out and pick them up for me during her weekly grocery shopping trips. Wait, Maria knew about all of this. Maria has known about this from the very beginning. She has been my inside partner, helping me every single day. Chloe expertly clicked her mouse, pulling up an endless, damning series of saved text messages. These specific texts are from Rachel directly to Dr. Chang. They officially began their affair 4 years ago, right after you foolishly made her the primary beneficiary of your newly updated life insurance policy. $2 million, Dad. That is a whole lot of lethal motivation. I sat frozen, violently staring at the horrifying messages on the screen. The shockingly intimate language, the detailed planning of their secret hotel meetings, the cruel, endless complaints about Martin being far too blindly trusting, and complaining that this entire process is taking way too damn long. This could all be cleverly faked, I heard my own pathetic voice desperately say, even as my stomach began to churn violently with blinding nausea. I entirely figured you would try to say that. Chloe rapidly pulled up a high-definition video file. This particular footage is from 8 months ago. I secretly installed a tiny, hidden micro camera directly inside your master bathroom medicine cabinet. She firmly pressed the play button. The crystal-clear footage undeniably showed Rachel casually entering our master bathroom, pulling open the mirrored medicine cabinet, and carefully removing a plastic bottle of my prescribed supplements, my daily supplements. She smoothly pulled a tiny, unmarked glass vial from her designer jacket pocket and methodically, carefully added several drops of a completely clear liquid directly into the pill bottle, shaking it vigorously before calmly replacing it back on the shelf. My vision began to swim violently. Those blue pills, the exact ones Dr. Chang had personally prescribed for my fatigue, the very ones Rachel fiercely ensured I swallowed every single day without fail. What is she secretly giving me? Thallium acetate, administered in slow, calculated low doses. It's called slow poisoning. It perfectly causes the exact horrific symptoms you have been suffering from. The chronic fatigue, the severe muscle weakness, the terrible mental brain fog. Eventually, it will seamlessly cause total organ failure that will look exactly like a tragedy of natural causes. This is especially true with Dr. Chang actively and maliciously falsifying your official medical records to show a long, documented history of rapidly declining health. I aggressively pushed my chair back from the desk, stumbled blindly into the small half-bathroom attached to my office, and violently threw up until my stomach was completely empty. When I finally dragged myself back, pale and shaking, Chloe was already pulling up dozens of more incriminating files. "I am so incredibly sorry, Dad. I know this is a massive, horrific amount to process, but we simply do not have the luxury of time for you to process this slowly. Rachel fully believes I am hopelessly locked away in my room. She thinks that you will be weak, bedridden, and entirely compliant until she returns. But I need you highly functional right now. I need you to help me." "Help you do what exactly?" My voice sounded completely hollow, like it belonged to a dead man. "Finish gathering the final pieces of evidence and take it all directly to the police before she ever sets foot back in this house." Chloe's piercing blue eyes met mine directly, and I tragically saw something in them that completely broke my heart into a million pieces. A cold, hardened, thousand-yard stare that absolutely no 17-year-old child should ever possess. I have spent 3 agonizing years meticulously building this criminal case. I have verified financial records proving Rachel and Dr. Chang are actively funneling stolen money into hidden offshore accounts. I have crystal-clear audio recordings of them, coldly discussing exactly how to stage your sudden death. I have undeniable proof that Dr. Rostova deliberately falsified my entire psychological evaluation to deeply isolate me and effectively render M.E. an entirely unreliable, insane witness. But honestly, it's all just circumstantial without a few more concrete pieces. What missing pieces? Rachel secretly maintains a private safe deposit box down at Columbia Bank. I know this for a fact because I have been digitally tracking her financial movements. I heavily suspect she keeps the actual physical evidence safely locked in there. Maybe the vials of poison itself. Maybe the original, hidden documents regarding Grandma's murder. We absolutely need to get inside that box. How? We can't just forcefully break into a highly secure bank vault. We don't have to. Chloe pulled out yet another perfectly printed legal document. You are still legally married to her. Oregon is a community property state. You possess every legal right to freely access any safe deposit box that is listed under both of your names. I double-checked the bank's active registry. The box is clearly listed under both Martin and Rachel Sterling. You can just walk in and formally request access. I stared endlessly at my brilliant daughter, this unbelievable stranger who possessed the face of my sweet little girl, but who thought and operated with the brilliant, cold calculation of a seasoned homicide detective. "Chloe, how did you? When did you possibly learn how to do all this?" For the very first time, her icy, perfect composure finally cracked. Her beautiful blue eyes suddenly filled to the brim with hot tears. "I was only 14 years old when I finally figured out that Rachel viciously murdered Grandma. I desperately tried to figure out a way to tell you, but Rachel was constantly there. She was always watching us, always tightly controlling absolutely everything you saw and heard in this house. I knew in my heart that if I dared to accuse her directly, she would instantly find a way to permanently silence me. Dr. Rostova would eagerly declare me totally delusional and a danger to myself. They would have absolutely institutionalized me." She wiped her wet eyes roughly with the sleeve of her hoodie. "So, I made the hard choice to make myself completely invisible. I expertly pretended to have a massive psychological breakdown. I let them all believe I was utterly helpless, pathetic, safely locked away in my room, completely neutralized as a threat. And while they laughed at me, I learned. I obsessively read every single thing I could get my hands on regarding advanced forensic investigation, proper legal evidence collection, and complex digital cybersecurity. I taught myself exactly how to become a ghost while secretly watching their every single move. You sacrificed 3 entire years of your precious life. I sacrificed 3 years of my life to save the rest of yours." Her tone suddenly turned incredibly fierce and protective. "Dad, You are absolutely all I have left in this world. My birth mom tragically died bringing me into this life. Grandma was the only other living person who genuinely, truly loved me. Rachel only married you for your massive bank accounts and your prestigious architectural firm's elite social connections. She has been ruthlessly playing a deadly long game. And I will be damned to hell if I ever let that monster win. I looked deeply at my incredible daughter, this terrifying, exceptionally brilliant, staggeringly brave young woman whom I had somehow so completely failed to protect. I took a deep, shuddering breath and stood up straight. Tell me exactly what we need to do. Chloe's tense shoulders visibly relaxed just a fraction. First things first, you need to permanently stop taking those toxic supplements. All of them right now. We are going to get you to a completely different, independent doctor for immediate blood work. I've already researched and found one. Dr. Valerie Hayes over in Beaverton. She operates completely independently and has absolutely zero connection to Rachel's hospital network. We will get irrefutable, legal medical documentation of the ongoing poisoning. She pulled up a detailed, bulleted checklist on her laptop screen. Second, we march straight into Columbia Bank the second it opens on Monday morning. You legally request access to that safe deposit box. I will be standing right there with you, secretly recording every single second on my phone. Whatever horrific things are hiding inside that box instantly becomes our golden evidence. What if Rachel somehow decides to come back early? She won't. I have been closely monitoring her phone's GPS and texts. She has lavish, expensive dinner plans scheduled for tonight with Chang up in Seattle, and they have already booked a luxury hotel room together. They aren't even bothering to be careful about it anymore. They fully, arrogantly believe they have already won. Chloe's expression hardened into stone. But we need to move incredibly fast. Once we secure the safe deposit box contents and your certified medical tests, we go straight to the police station. I've already done deep background research on exactly who to talk to. Detective Maya Lin, down in the Portland Police Bureau. She specifically specializes in complex domestic violence and premeditated homicide cases. I fiercely rubbed my tired face, desperately trying to think clearly through the thick, unnatural fog swimming in my brain. How much of my daily mental cloudiness was just from pure exhaustion, and how much of it was directly from the toxic poison seeping into my veins. Chloe, if this grand plan goes wrong, if they somehow realize what we are actively doing behind their backs, then we are both as good as dead. Her brutal bluntness shocked me to my core. That is exactly why we absolutely cannot mess this up. That is why I have painstakingly spent 3 years ensuring every single solitary piece of evidence is perfectly documented, securely backed up in multiple encrypted cloud locations, with physical copies already sent to an independent lawyer with strict, unchangeable instructions to release absolutely everything to the press if something tragic happens to us. You actually hired a lawyer. I have 6 different lawyers on standby, and 3 hungry, investigative journalists who have all sworn to publish the entire story if we mysteriously fail to check in by Wednesday morning. She smiled a grim, terrifyingly competent smile. I told you, Dad. I have been planning this execution for 3 long years. That first day entirely blurred together in a haze of adrenaline. Chloe confidently moved through the house like she had never been locked away a day in her life, proudly showing me her hidden command center up in the converted attic space. The room had been professionally soundproofed for my severe anxiety, Rachel had falsely told me when she eagerly arranged the expensive renovation. In dark reality, it had perfectly allowed Chloe to work completely undetected. The attic walls were obsessively covered entirely with detailed timelines, secretly printed photographs, string maps, and numbered evidence markers. It looked exactly like something straight out of an elite FBI task force investigation room, because that is exactly what it was. I silently leave the house at night, Chloe calmly explained, pointing to the sturdy rope ladder she had ingeniously rigged to her window. Usually when you are deeply asleep, and Rachel is out networking with Chang. I have been actively photographing them intimately together, tracking their daily movements, and properly identifying all of their shady associates. I have even covertly interviewed Grandma's old neighbors. Several of them distinctly remember seeing Rachel visiting Grandma the exact day before she died. One neighbor even clearly saw Rachel quickly leaving the house, carrying a Tupperware container stolen from Grandma's kitchen. She then pointed to a crisp photograph of an orange storage facility door. That right there is Unit 247 at the Secure Space Storage Facility on Powell Boulevard. It is quietly rented under Maria's name. That is exactly where I safely keep all the hard, physical copies of everything. If this house somehow mysteriously burns to the ground or the digital evidence somehow disappears, we have untouched backups. Does Rachel have any idea about Maria secretly helping you? Rachel arrogantly thinks Maria is just a simple, uneducated housekeeper who can barely speak a word of English. In stark reality, Maria actually holds a master's degree in criminal justice from Mexico and successfully worked as a lead police investigator for years before immigrating here. She instantly recognized the classic physical signs of heavy metal poisoning in you and bravely approached me in secret 6 months ago. Chloe pulled up a heartwarming photo of Maria, our quiet, endlessly efficient housekeeper, standing proudly beside Chloe inside what looked like the cluttered storage unit. She has been my absolute rock and partner in this nightmare. She has literally saved your life more than once by secretly diluting the poison in your pill capsules when Rachel maliciously tried to increase the dosage. I felt hot, heavy tears streaming freely down my pale cheeks. I have been so incredibly blind to all of this. You deeply trusted your own wife. That isn't blindness, Dad. It's called love. Chloe's harsh voice suddenly softened, becoming the little girl I remembered. Rachel is a textbook narcissistic sociopath who is terrifyingly good at brutal manipulation. Dr. Chang is just a pathetic, weak man who greedily wanted money and elevated social status. Together, they are an incredibly dangerous combination. But Dad, they made one massive, critical mistake. What's that? They vastly underestimated me. She looked proudly around her incredible attic command center with something akin to a warrior's pride. They arrogantly thought a broken teenage girl with crippling anxiety would be ridiculously easy to control, manipulate, and dismiss. They entire. Life forgot that I am your daughter, and I am the proud granddaughter of Beatrice Sterling. We are relentless survivors. That night, sleep entirely evaded me. I lay stiffly in the massive bed I had intimately shared with Rachel for 8 long years, and obsessively wondered exactly how many nights she had laid peacefully right beside me, silently calculating the optimal time for my death. The horrific thought made me physically sick to my stomach. Around 2:00 in the morning, my cell phone suddenly buzzed in the dark. It was a secure text message from an entirely unknown number. This is Detective Lynn. Your daughter bravely contacted me 6 months ago with her initial findings. I have been secretly investigating alongside her ever since. We will absolutely need your official sworn statement on Monday morning. Please, stay safe until then. Chloe had been expertly building massive bridges of salvation that I didn't even know existed in the world. Sunday morning, Maria arrived much earlier than usual. She immediately walked right up and hugged me. Really, truly hugged me with fierce emotion, not just the polite, subservient nod she usually gave. Mr. Martin, I am so incredibly relieved you finally know the truth. Carrying this dark secret has been very, very hard on my soul. Why didn't you just tell me straight away? I asked, my voice thick with emotion. Maria exchanged a knowing, sad look with Chloe. Would you honestly have believed me, sir? A lowly housekeeper wildly accusing your beautiful, successful wife of premeditated murder. You would have instantly thought I was insane, trying to steal from you, or just trying to cause baseless trouble. No, Chloe was entirely right. We desperately needed hard evidence. Absolute mountains of it. Undeniable, bulletproof proof. She lovingly prepared breakfast, a real, hearty breakfast filled with fresh eggs, bright fruit, and rich coffee that finally didn't taste like bitter metal. "No more poison," she stated firmly, her eyes flashing. "From this exact moment on, I personally prepare every single bite of your food. Chloe did a full background check on me. You can trust me with your life." Right after breakfast, we drove straight to Dr. Valerie Hayes's discreet clinic in Beaverton. Chloe had brilliantly made the appointment weeks ago under a completely false name, paying entirely in untraceable cash. Dr. Hayes was a sharp-eyed, no-nonsense woman in her late 50s who listened intensely, never interrupting once, as Chloe masterfully laid out the entire terrifying situation. "I will immediately need extensive blood, urine, and hair follicle samples," Dr. Hayes said grimly, pulling on her medical gloves. "The hair samples will perfectly show a detailed historical timeline of the poisoning over the past several months. If what you two are telling me is accurate, these results are going to be absolutely damning in a court of law." She looked at me with deep, genuine sympathy. "Mr. Sterling, you should mentally prepare yourself. Thallium poisoning is horrifyingly serious. Depending entirely on exactly how much toxic metal you've been ingesting, you may already have suffered permanent, irreversible organ or nerve damage. We will need to immediately begin aggressive chelation therapy to strip the heavy metals from your blood." The grueling medical tests took hours to complete. While we anxiously waited in the sterile room for the initial rapid results, Chloe showed me even more horrific evidence neatly organized on her laptop. She had uncovered hidden financial records definitively showing Rachel had secretly taken out a massive second mortgage on our family house entirely without my knowledge. There were updated life insurance documents where my personal signature had clearly been expertly forged to drastically increase the final payout. There were even sickening email exchanges between Rachel and Dr. Chang, eagerly discussing their grand retirement plans in the sunny Cayman Islands. "She has been meticulously planning to brutally kill you for at least 2 solid years," Chloe said quietly, the glow of the screen reflecting in her eyes. "Maybe even much longer than that. She definitely killed Grandma to permanently stop her from exposing the affair. She has been actively killing you slowly to ensure it looks exactly like natural medical causes. And she completely falsified my entire mental health record, so I would be legally institutionalized the second after you died, entirely ensuring I could never, ever inherit your money or challenge her claims in court." "Why not just divorce me?" I asked, completely bewildered by the sheer evil of it. "Because you were smart enough to have an ironclad prenup. If she simply divorces you, she walks away with almost nothing. If you die tragically, she happily inherits absolutely everything. Your massive life insurance, your half of this expensive house, your lucrative share of the architecture firm, all your vast retirement accounts. And as my sole legal stepmother, she would have total financial control over my remaining inheritance from you until I finally turned 25. That is another 8 whole years for her to treat my fake mental illness and easily have a judge declare me entirely mentally incompetent." The sheer, breathtaking coldness of the master plan took my breath completely away. She has been systematically planning to completely destroy both of our lives. Yes, she was, but she arrogantly forgot that I am significantly smarter than she could ever hope to be. Chloe's smile was razor-sharp and deadly, and I possess something powerful that she entirely lacks. I actually love you. Dr. Hayes finally returned to the room with the preliminary printed results in hand. Her face was incredibly grave and pale. "Mr. Sterling, you have dangerously, shockingly high toxic levels of thallium currently circulating in your system. Frankly, you are incredibly lucky to even be breathing right now. Much longer on those pills, and you would have undoubtedly experienced catastrophic, complete renal failure. We need to begin aggressive treatment immediately." She gently handed me a thick printed report. "This right here is your golden medical evidence. I'm also legally required to file an immediate mandatory report with the Oregon Health Authority and the local police department. What they have done to you is premeditated attempted murder. That Sunday night, Maria bravely stayed at the house with us. She fiercely slept in the downstairs guest room with a heavy wooden baseball bat resting right beside her bed. Chloe expertly set up high-tech motion sensors at every single possible entrance to the house and handed me a small, silent panic button that would instantly alert Detective Lynn's personal phone if we suddenly needed tactical help. Rachel's last casual call to the house came in exactly at 6:00 p.m. Chloe reported that she was still actively monitoring Rachel's cell phone data. She and Chang are currently enjoying a massively expensive dinner at some five-star restaurant. They are actively celebrating. Her last text message to him literally said, "By this precise time next week, we will finally be totally free." I felt a blinding, hot rage violently bubble up in my chest. How on earth can a human being be so purely evil? "'Cause she fundamentally does not see you as an actual human being," Chloe explained softly. "To her, you are just an annoying obstacle, a simple means to a financial end. Soulless people exactly like Rachel simply do not feel human empathy the way normal, healthy people do. Dr. Rostova is exactly the same terrifying way she happily falsified my medical records purely for money and exclusive access to Chang's powerful pharmaceutical connections. They are all just parasitic users." Monday morning finally arrived like a thunderclap. I meticulously dressed in my absolute best, sharpest tailored suit, exactly as Chloe had firmly insisted. "You absolutely need to look highly competent, powerful, and incredibly credible," she had coached me. "Not like a sick, weak man who is easily confused. You need to look exactly like the highly successful, brilliant architect you truly are." We confidently arrived at the grand doors of Columbia Bank at 9:00 a.m. sharp. I strode powerfully up to the main desk, slamming my official ID and certified marriage certificate down on the marble counter. "I urgently need to access my joint safety deposit box, please." The startled bank officer quickly checked her digital records. Box 2847 listed under Martin and Rachel Sterling. "Yes, that is the one. I will just need to quickly verify your identity, sir." She thoroughly checked my driver's license, asked several complex security questions, and carefully confirmed my official signature against their files. Chloe stood silently, slightly behind me, her smartphone discreetly recording absolutely everything at a clever angle that the bank officer couldn't possibly see. We were solemnly led into the heavy steel vault. The bank officer inserted her master key and politely indicated I should use mine. "I unfortunately do not possess my key on me," I stated smoothly. "My wife usually manages the physical key for our box." "Oh, that is quite all right, sir. We can simply call a locksmith to drill the lock open right now. There is a standard fee, of course." "That is perfectly fine. Bill my account." 20 agonizing minutes later, the heavy metal box was finally cracked open. The bank officer politely left us entirely alone inside the private, soundproof viewing room, citing standard bank privacy procedures. The absolute second the heavy door clicked closed, Chloe frantically began digitally documenting absolutely everything with her phone's high-resolution camera. The dark contents hidden inside the safety deposit box were an absolute, undeniable horror show. Sitting right on top was a detailed, handwritten financial ledger meticulously recording massive cash payments made to someone named Hector Silva, complete with specific dates and exact dollar amounts. Written right beside each specific date was a person's name. Beatrice Sterling, Mark Sterling, Alex Rostov. Mark Sterling was Rachel's very first husband, I gasped, my voice violently shaking in the silent room. He tragically died of a sudden, massive heart attack exactly 5 years ago. That was exactly when she inherited all of his money, which she then used to generously, invest in my new architectural firm. And Alex Rostov was Dr. Alina Rostova's husband, Chloe added, her own face draining completely pale. He died very suddenly last year. Sudden, massive heart failure at the young age of 42. She immediately inherited his highly lucrative private medical practice. Buried beneath the ledger were several small glass vials. They were tiny, pharmaceutical-grade containers clearly labeled with complex, terrifying chemical formulas. There were also glossy photographs. Rachel intimately kissing Chang, Rachel smiling with Dr. Rostova, all three of them laughing together at what looked like a lavish celebratory dinner. And resting right at the very bottom of the metal box was a cheap, plastic burner phone. Chloe swiftly grabbed it and powered it on. The saved text message history was absolutely horrifying. It contained heavily detailed daily discussions of my fake medical treatment plan, joyful updates on my rapidly declining health, and cruel complaints that I was taking way too damn long to finally die. And most terrifyingly damning of all, a text that read, "Hector says he can easily make it look exactly like a tragic suicide if the damn poison doesn't work soon, but that's going to be much messier to clean up. Let's just give the pills 2 more weeks." Hector Silva is a professional hitman, Chloe stated, frantically screenshotting every single message. I have been digitally tracking his dark web movements for a year. He is secretly connected to at least 6 other highly suspicious, unsolved deaths across Oregon and Washington state. We boxed absolutely everything back up incredibly carefully, strictly maintaining the legal chain of custody that Chloe had obsessively researched. Then, we drove directly to the heavily guarded Portland Police Bureau and immediately demanded to speak with Detective Maya Lin. Detective Lin was a formidable, compact woman in her late 40s, possessing sharp, calculating eyes that missed absolutely nothing. She had clearly been anxiously waiting for our arrival. Her secure interrogation office was already fully set up with state-of-the-art video and audio recording equipment. "Mr. Sterling, Chloe, please sit down immediately. I need you to start completely from the very beginning." For the next 4 grueling hours, we laid out absolutely everything. Chloe presented her massive mountain of evidence methodically and perfectly: the encrypted digital files, the audio recordings, the photographs, the damning financial documents. I handed over my certified medical records and my terrifying new blood test results. Finally, we presented the horrific contents we had just pulled from the bank's safety deposit box. Detective Lin's hardened expression grew noticeably darker and more furious with every single stunning revelation. This is, without a doubt, one of the most incredibly comprehensive, brilliant civilian investigations I have ever seen in my entire career, she finally said, leaning back heavily in her chair. "Chloe, you could seriously have a brilliant career in federal law enforcement." "I just want my dad to finally be safe," Chloe replied quietly, her brave facade finally showing exhaustion. "He absolutely will be." Lynn aggressively snatched up her desk phone. "I am calling the district attorney right this second. We have more than enough hard physical evidence for immediate, no-knock arrest warrants for Rachel Sterling, Dr. David Chang, and Dr. Alina Rostova. We are also going to tactically bring in Hector Silva. And Chloe, we are eventually going to need you to officially testify in open court as to exactly how you legally gathered all this digital evidence. Can you be brave enough to do that?" "Yes, ma'am, absolutely. You both should know that some of your early evidence, the secret recordings from their phones, for example, might possibly be deemed inadmissible by a judge because of exactly how it was obtained without consent. But we have more than enough perfectly clean legal evidence to build an ironclad case. Your father's lethal poisoning is medically documented. The safety deposit box contents were obtained legally. Your grandmother's body can and will be exhumed and thoroughly tested. We can absolutely do this." Lynn looked directly at me. "Mr. Sterling, I am going to immediately arrange secure, armed protective custody for both you and your daughter until my tactical teams make all the arrests. Is there somewhere incredibly a fair and off the grid you can stay? Maria's house, Chloe answered immediately. Rachel has absolutely no idea where she actually lives. That exact evening, securely hidden away in Maria's small but incredibly cozy home in deep southeast Portland, I watched the local news channels with bated breath. The breaking news alert flashed bright red. Rachel, Dr. Chang, and Dr. Rostova had all been aggressively arrested in a massive, coordinated sting operation. The shocked reporter rapidly mentioned a highly complex, multi-million-dollar murder-for-hire scheme involving several high-profile victims. Suddenly, my cell phone rang. It was Rachel's number. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. Her recorded message was completely, terrifyingly ice-cold. Martin, I have absolutely no idea what ridiculous lies the police have fed you, but you need to call your lawyers and get me out of here right now. I am your loving wife. We need to stand firmly together on this. Call me back immediately. There was absolutely no panic, no desperate pleading, just pure, arrogant commands. Even while locked in a jail cell during an absolute crisis, she still fully expected to easily manipulate and control me. Chloe watched silently as I permanently deleted the voicemail. Are you okay, Dad? I really don't know what I am, I admitted truthfully, running a hand through my hair. I'm furiously angry, I'm deeply betrayed, but mostly, I am just incredibly grateful to be alive. I am so grateful for you. I pulled her into a fierce, tight hug. You literally saved my life. You are, without a doubt, the bravest, most incredible person I have ever known. She hugged me back desperately, and I suddenly felt her entire body violently shake with the massive, agonizing sobs she had been painfully holding inside her chest for 3 entire years. I was so incredibly scared, Dad. Every single day I was terrified she would successfully kill you before I could find a way to stop her. I was terrified you would think I was crazy and wouldn't believe me. I was terrified she would find out what I was doing and hurt you even faster to silence me. It's finally over now, sweetheart. You actually did it. You won. Not quite yet, she whispered, bravely pulling back and fiercely wiping away her tears. We both still have to testify in front of a jury. We have to make absolutely sure they rot in prison forever. The highly publicized trial took place 6 agonizing months later. The prosecution team had successfully built an incredibly overwhelming bulletproof case against them. My mother's body had been successfully exhumed. Lethal thallium poisoning was undeniably confirmed. Mark Sterling's supposedly natural death was officially reopened. Also confirmed poisoning. Alex Rostov's tragic death. Poisoning. They were facing charges for 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of attempted murder, massive wire fraud, and grand conspiracy. The prosecution confidently called me to the stand first. I bravely testified about my marriage to Rachel, my horrifically declining health, and the toxic blue supplements I had been aggressively forced to take. Brilliant medical experts testified in agonizing detail about thallium poisoning and exactly how it perfectly mimicked natural, untraceable illnesses. And then Chloe confidently took the stand. She was 18 years old now, officially and legally an adult. She had spent the last 6 months working intensely with a specialized trauma therapist, slowly dealing with the severe PTSD from her 3-year nightmare of isolation. But when she calmly sat in that wooden witness box, she was steady, articulate, and terrifyingly clear. She flawlessly walked the captivated jury through her entire investigation, step by meticulous step. She explained exactly how she had brilliantly taught herself complex digital forensics, how she had painstakingly documented every single detail, and how she had essentially built a massive criminal case that even seasoned detectives deeply admired. The jury members were utterly riveted, hanging on her every word. The desperate defense attorneys furiously tried to discredit her, wildly claiming she was severely mentally ill, that her digital evidence was highly fabricated, and that she had illegally hacked secure systems. But Detective Lynn proudly testified right after her, swearing under oath that her team had completely and independently verified every single piece of Chloe's evidence. The horrific contents of the bank safety deposit box spoke entirely for themselves. My near-fatal poisoning was perfectly medically documented. And then, for the final nail in the coffin, the prosecution loudly played the crystal-clear audio recordings recovered from the secret burner phone. The entire courtroom listened in sickened silence as Rachel and Chang discussed my impending death in horribly callous, mercenary terms. They heard Dr. Rostova cruelly laughing out loud about easily falsifying Chloe. Severe mental diagnosis to keep her locked away. They heard all three of them giddily planning exactly how to spend my massive insurance payout. The jury only deliberated for a mere 3 hours. Rachel Sterling was found guilty on 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of attempted murder, severe fraud, and conspiracy. Her sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole. Dr. David Chang was found guilty on 3 counts of conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, and massive fraud. Sentence: 35 years in federal prison. Dr. Elena Rostova was found guilty of conspiracy, massive fraud, and maliciously falsifying official medical records. Sentence: 20 solid years. Hector Silva, the brutal hitman, quickly took a plea deal to save his own life, and received 40 years in exchange for his damning testimony against his wealthy employers. The crowded courtroom erupted in cheers and tears. I held Chloe incredibly tight as she finally cried, not from sadness or fear, but from the overwhelming relief of absolute victory. 3 long years of carrying the massive weight of the world entirely alone, and she had finally achieved justice. A full year has peacefully passed since the chaotic trial ended. Chloe is currently thriving in college now, passionately studying complex forensic psychology at Portland State University. She is still actively in therapy twice a week, slowly but surely working through the deep trauma of her forced isolation and the massive, unfair burden she bravely carried. She finally has real friends for the first time in years, genuine, supportive friends who know her incredible story and deeply admire her unmatched courage. I have almost entirely recovered physically. The aggressive chelation therapy successfully removed the vast majority of the lethal thallium from my system, though I still suffer from some minor nerve damage that causes occasional weakness in my hands. Honestly, it's a very small price to pay for keeping my life. My architecture firm surprisingly survived the massive media scandal. Several of Rachel's terrible, fake business decisions were legally reversed, and we are currently more successful and busy than ever before. I proudly hired Maria as my new executive office manager. Her brilliant investigative and organizational skills were entirely wasted on simple housekeeping, and she is absolutely brilliant at management. The other victims' grieving families finally received massive financial restitution from seizing Rachel's hidden assets. My beloved mother's good name was officially cleared. No one ever believes anymore that her tragic death was simply from natural causes. Mark Sterling's family finally has real closure. Alex Rostov's devastated family finally has some semblance of peace. I've even slowly started casually dating again, though I am moving incredibly slowly and carefully. Blind trust certainly doesn't come easily to me anymore after what I survived, but I am trying my best to learn how to open up. Chloe and I are closer now than we have ever been in our entire lives. Every single Sunday, we have a big dinner together, just the 2 of us. We happily talk about her fascinating classes, her big dreams of eventually working for the FBI's elite behavioral analysis unit, my new design projects at work, and all the incredibly normal, mundane parent-child conversations that we tragically lost for 3 years. Sometimes I look deeply at her and still completely fail to comprehend exactly what she managed to do at just 14 years old. When most normal kids her age were only worried about high school homework, petty drama, and social media likes, she was secretly, brilliantly building a massive, multi-jurisdictional murder investigation. She completely sacrificed her entire adolescence, the school dances, the first dates, the innocent friendships, her total normalcy, just to save my life. She is the true, undeniable hero of this incredibly dark story, not me. If there is absolutely anything I have learned from surviving this horrific nightmare, it is this crucial lesson: trust, but always, always verify. True, genuine love does not ever require total blindness. I had trusted Rachel completely, implicitly, and I never once questioned the perfect, fake narrative she so carefully built around our lives. I foolishly let her take total control of my medical care, my vulnerable daughter's psychological treatment, and all of our complex finances. I essentially abdicated my fundamental responsibility as both a parent and a partner by just lazily assuming everyone had good intentions. Real, healthy love is built entirely on transparency, honesty, and accountability. It is absolutely okay to ask hard questions. It is okay to verify important information. It is always okay to trust your gut instincts when something deep inside you feels terribly wrong. And if you ever see someone actively trying to isolate you from your loving family, forcefully controlling your access to outside information, or cruelly making you doubt your own mental sanity and perceptions, those are massive, glaring warning signs. Coercive, psychological control is incredibly real, and it is a brutal form of invisible abuse that almost always precedes physical violence. To anyone out there watching this on this channel or reading this who currently feels foggy, constantly tired, heavily controlled, or deeply manipulated in their relationship, please, I beg of you, get a completely independent second opinion. Go see a medical doctor that your partner specifically does not recommend. Talk deeply to an old friend that your partner hasn't carefully vetted. Trust yourself above all else. And to all the parents out there, please, listen to your children. Really, truly listen to them. Chloe bravely tried to tell me something was terribly wrong, and I completely missed the glaring signals because I was far too focused on my own busy life and blindly trusting my new wife. Children inherently see the dark things that adults easily miss because they haven't yet learned how to politely make excuses for toxic, bad behavior. Yet despite everything, I am incredibly grateful every single day for my amazing daughter's unmatched intelligence, her fierce courage, and her boundless love. She could have easily just sat back, let Rachel succeed in murdering me, and eventually inherited absolutely everything for herself. Instead, she chose to spend 3 agonizing years in total isolation to save me. That is the truest, purest form of love I have ever known. We proudly survived. And now, we are actively dedicating our time to teaching others how to clearly recognize the dark signs that we initially missed. So maybe, just maybe, sharing this story can entirely prevent this nightmare from violently destroying another innocent family. Because the bitter truth is, the most incredibly dangerous monsters in this world aren't usually strangers hiding in dark alleyways. They are the smiling ones who sleep peacefully right beside you in bed, the ones who intimately know all your weaknesses, the ones who have completely earned your unquestioning trust. And the absolutely only viable defense against those hidden monsters is total awareness, constant vigilance, and the fierce courage to speak the absolute truth, even when everyone else in the world blindly believes the beautiful lie.